Cheater fly fish food, and I have an awesome fly for you. Maybe my best bait fish pattern, but this time in a baby rainbow flavor.
That's a big brown.
Welcome back to another ghost minnow. As I tie more of these and mess with more colors, I learn things. And we're going to do something a little bit different on this one than on the first ghost minnow. And I think this one is maybe the most dialed in baby fat minnow style of all of them. So check it out. As you know, with the other ghost minnow, instead of marabou, we're going to use flash for the tail. So for our baby rainbow trout, I'm going to maintain this just pure pink. I'm going to put a band of pink in there. And then instead of just running white and olive, you know, this is what is this pearl red hue. I chose red hue because it looks cool, and this is minnow back. But you could make it out of just those. But I like to add a little bit more depth to it. So I'll show you how I like to blend this stuff. So I want it to be mostly white. Oh crap! This stuff sucks. Oh, I got it. Holy freak, this stuff breaks. I got a bad bag.
Can I stop it?
Yeah, stop it. All right, time to tie another flavor of the ghost baby fat minnow. Now pay attention on this one because we're going to do a few things differently when we finish the fly. And, you know, little by little, just like all the flies I tie a whole bunch of, you know, there are things that happen as you tie more to make them better. So I think this method that we're going to show you right now is maybe the best way to tie the baby fat. So pay attention. We're going to use, I think, 5 colors of this ice wing fiber. There's going to be a pink stripe out of the shell pink. The minnow back is going to be for the back, obviously, of the minnow. Maybe that's why they call it minnow back. Anyway, then we're going to blend these 3 together to make up the white color of the fly, or the lighter color of the minnow. And you know, obviously we're going to use just a very little amount, but you know, any little bit of depth makes a difference. So I'll show you the best way to blend this stuff. I think the primary color is going to be this pearl UV hue, just any sort of like pearl-ish, long fibered stuff. All right, so I'll take a little bit of the white, and here's the best way to do this. So I'm going to put my hand on the table and I'm going to pull out a little bit at a time and just put those tips in there, and I'm just going to pull that through, and this aligns these fibers. Okay, if this is the only thing that you get out of this video, it's worth the price of admission. There's not even a skill builder about this, and if you don't know what a skill builder is, you should check it out. And if you don't know what School is, our new app driven education thing, I'm sure there's going to be a link in the description for that too. So anyway, we're going to blend this up. Now for the next one, we're going to grab a little bit of yellow. That came out all pretty nice, and I'll just lay that on there. And then this lavender. Let's just get a little bit here. So I showed you that blending technique. Now I'm going to grab all of these at the same time and just blend them like this. So you see how I stacked them, but it allows me to nicely blend all those colors. There's a little clump of yellow there, so I had to get mean with it. So that's pretty good right there, but I'm going to go through it a few times. So just again, grab the tips, pull them through, you know, give it a little bit of a roll, and then just do the same thing. Grab the tips and pull it through, and you will eventually end up with a big old clump of flash. It's blended like this. All right. So once that it's blended, this is enough to tie a ton of minnows. We're going to just use a little tiny bit. So that's blended. Let's get into the fly. So critical that you have a size 8 Bonio carp hook. The size 10 can be too small at times. And you're going to want a 3mm tungsten bead or a 2.8 or whatever you like. So we're going to start out by just starting our thread behind this bead, and it is a Teflon coated bead or some sort of slick, slippery surface, so make sure you build it up nice. And then I find the easiest way to jump in front of here is just to pin the bead with my finger and then just force my thread over in front like that. And now we can lock it down. The distance that the bead should be behind the eye of the hook is enough so that you can put one of these little eyes in there. See that? So this eye fits in between the bead and the eye of the hook. So we're good proportion wise there. Oh, slipped around. All right, now we can really lock this in place. So I'm going to go over the top of this bead a few times, and we're good. All right, so now to tie in the sections of the fly that we want to show up. Okay, so you can see how much of this of these fibers that I grabbed. Okay, it's just a tiny, tiny little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take these fibers, and to start out, I'm going to cut them off flush. There's a bunch of ways to do this. I just find this is the easiest way. And then you're going to pull out a few of these and just make a few of those a little longer than the others. And then you're just going to kind of roll that in your fingers a little bit. And what this does is it kind of makes a little bit of a taper. I mean, it's minuscule, but when the fly gets wet, it makes a difference. Moisten the fingers if you need to. And we're going to make this flash obey. So there you go. It's wet enough. We're going to tie that in. So as you can see, this is a little tiny bit of flash here. For the next step, again, I'm going to keep that nice and thin for the video so it doesn't drive any of you nuts. The next step, we're going to add a little bit of pink for the stripe. And keep in mind, little tiny rainbows, have pretty muted colors, but we're just kind of teasing the fish into thinking these are just shiny snacks. Bright colored rainbow snacks. So we're just going to throw that in on top there. Perfect. And then I'm going to take some more of that ripple ice fiber. You can use the ice dub for this part, but just to get a tiny little bit, or what is this? Not ripple ice, it's ice wing fiber. Any of this pink stuff you got, and this is what color we're going to make the body, or the part that we dub the dubbing on, all the way up to the bead. So there you go, a little bit of pink, and then we're going to jump over the bead again, and we're going to use this minnow back color, about the same amount. Okay, so I'm going to do the same technique where I trim it flush. I pull a few of those longer, and we'll just tie that section in. Gosh, I'm going to get rid of that chunk right now. That's going to be a problem. All right, so here we are tied in. So as you can see, this when you put this top section on, it kind of makes the appearance of a translucent minnow. You can see roughly you've got just a few strands that turn this into the semblance of a fish. Next step here is we're going to go up and do the bruiser blend. So for the top of this one, I'm going to use medium olive, and for the bottom, I'm going to use cream. And we're going to use just a tiny, tiny bit, like you're going to even see through that much dubbing. And you're going to preen it in your fingers until they're all roughly the same length in there. Roll it in your fingers a little bit, and we're going to tie it in, not right in the middle of the clump, but a little bit further back so that most of the fibers go over the eye of the hook, just like that. Okay? We're going to do that same thing with the cream color on the bottom and go from there. All right, so take note how much dubbing's in this fly, all right? It's just a tiny, tiny bit. Most of the time when baby fat minnows are screwed up, it's because they have way too much dubbing. At this point, we're gonna fan the dubbing out on top and bottom. Just like that. And what that does is it kind of covers up the sides as we pull it back. So I'm going to take the top section, I'm going to pull that back, I'm going to bring my thread up, and then I'm going to bring the bottom section and bring that back, and then I'm going to wrap around the whole thing. Okay. Now I'm just going to jump my thread to the front of the fly, right behind the hook eye, and I'm going to tie this off just with like 2-3 snug turns. And get rid of that thread. Okay, this is you can still see the bead on both sides of that fly. So this is the time where you're going to fix that. You're going to grab the bottom and the top together and just kind of wiggle it back and forth like that. See how I did that? And now if we brush that out, we're turning into a pretty killer little minnow. So you can see now the whole fly is starting to come together as a little baby rainbow. So this part right here that I'm showing you, this is maddening, right? So you're fishing a baby fat minnow and the part on the bottom always tries to get split, and so you're always, you know, trying to keep that on even sides under the hook because, you know, it helps it swim better if it's nice and centered. We're going to show you how to make that a permanent thing so you don't have to mess with it anymore. Before we do that though, you can see there's a little hater right there, a little tiny strand coming over, and I got the old tan colored Bic to take care of those bad boys. All right, at this point we're going to give this a paint job. All right, so it's a rainbow trout, and I'm going to make the top of it a little bit darker first of all. And I'm going to take this, what is this, just like a sepia colored marker, and I'm going to color just right down the top. So you can see it kind of makes it look like it's going from like brown, or I mean from olive to olive brown or something like that. And then we'll do a really fine black line over the top, just like a little tiny bit. Okay. All right, once we're there, I'm going to take a little tiny bit of the pink, and we're going to give it little pink gills. Just like that, and maybe tease a little tiny bit of pink out here, but we don't need to add a ton because we have some in the body. All right, that looks pretty good. The other thing is sometimes by the gill plate they can have a little bit of orange, so we're going to just doctor that up a little bit. There we go. Little tiny spots if you want. Why don't we add a few spots? Okay, is he looking pretty cute yet? I'll just make some little gill stripes now. You don't want to be super heavy-handed with the marker because, you know, we just have a little tiny bit of dubbing. All right, so this looks pretty good. I'm going to comb it one more time just to kind of floof it out a little bit. Okay. All right, so we're ready to go in with some eyes and resin on this little fella. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these flat pliers. There are all kinds of different things you can use. I think this is a hook debarbing plier. If you have the little micro needle nose, those work great too. But just flatten the head. See, on this profile you can see it's really nice and flat. There's a platform for me to stick the eyes. All right, more haters came out. because I've nicked the thread, we're going to make them think twice about coming and messing with us. We're going to burn them off. And the best thing to put the eyes on with is Loctite gel super glue. Okay, it doesn't matter the brand, but it needs to be gel. The reason being is if it's gel, the super glue won't seep into your fly. That's kind of a big deal. I'm going to make sure this is straight. Boom, we're in. So I like to just do these one at a time. And I'm going to take just a little tiny dab of super glue. That was more than a dab. Let's see. You can see I just barely touched that to the side of the fly. And then I'm going to grab this little 3mm eye, and I'm just going to use the eye of the hook as a ramp. See how I have it? I'm just touching that on the round part of the hook, and I just slide it right over. I mean, however you want to do it to get those eyes on like that, but if you do it that way, you can use a little tiny bit of super glue and it will hold it right in place. So that's how we want it to sit. And we're going to do it again on the other side. All right. Use the eye as the ramp. Make that eye jump over. All right. And I'm just going to make sure those are right. So I look down the top and make sure they're right next to each other. Sometimes they can move around a little bit. Take your time. It's not a race. All right. A few more haters to get burnt off. All right. So now let's put the resin on. This is another little trick. Pay attention to this part. Because where you push the resin around with the needle can make all the difference. This is a medium resin from Solares. You know what, I have one more little hater that is just barely, I have readers on now so I can see way too much, Brigham. This might get annoying for you. What's going to happen when I can actually see while I'm tying? Do you think my flies are going to get better or worse, Brig?
Worse.
He says worse. Probably. Check them out. See those readers? It's serious. All right. We've got the fancy medium flavor resin from Solares, and you want it to be a little bit thick as you're putting this around the eye of your fly. If it's too thin, it just drips and runs. So I'm going to take this bodkin, I'm going to push it off the back of the eye and just barely let it touch the dubbing. I'm just pushing that resin off of the eye and touching it to the resin or the dubbing. And what that does is it seals that head. It just glues it to the back of the fly, and those eyes won't pop off. All right, so that looks pretty dang good right there. You see how nice and thin that head is, even though it has the 3D epoxy eyes. It's a nice cylindrical shape. Not a lot of bulk to it. This is why I use resin most of the time for my heads instead of like any of the pre-manufactured masks or stuff. It just keeps it nice and thin. All right, so now for the big trick, okay? I'm going to take some thick resin and I'm going to put it on my bodkin like that, okay? And I'm just going to come in here under the fly and I'm going to tease that into the belly dubbing. This is a little bit harder than than before, but what you're going to do is you're just kind of painting that on there with the needle. And what this does is it's going to make the belly of the fly rigid but still able to move, okay? So right here where it goes through the hook is a part where it's kind of a pain. And so you can just bring that resin straight back like that. You take your time and form it, because once you nuke this, it will just stay like that forever. I kind of like it just like this. So I'm just going to tag that with my light now. And this takes care of the issue that the dubbing on the belly will foul, because now it won't. We've been fishing these little resin-bellied ghost minnows for a while, and they are crushing fish. So we're going to show you the obligatory baby fat minnow when it's wet photo. To see if all the hype is worth it. I think you might like it. But anyway, there you have it. There's a little baby fat minnow rainbow flavor. And look at this. I'm going to put this behind there. You can see that the fly is completely see-through. So anyway, play with this fly. More of these little ghost baby fat minnows are coming soon.